Joining us now is Missouri State Representative Courtney Allen Curtis. His district encompasses about 60% of the town of Ferguson, Missouri. Representative Curtis, I know this is a very busy time. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Ahead of this crisis, ahead of the death of Mike Brown, what can you tell us about the relationship between the police department and the community in your district, in Ferguson, and historically? What have been the biggest source of tensions, if there have been tensions?
It depends on what side of the community you come from. There are virtually two sides to the community. On one side, it's virtually a good relationship. The officers do help out with initiatives like the Ferguson Youth Initiative, and there's largely no problems. But for the other side, that tends to largely be African American, not only in Ferguson, but in St. Louis County together. We have individuals that run into different issues with speeding tickets. We used to have speeding cameras up on the major roadways, and that's a major source of tension. Outside of that, I myself actually got pulled over last week by a municipality that's right next to us, Calverton Park, and they said that my tail light was out. And then after he ran my name, he actually said that the tail light was on again. So these are the types of things that we deal with on a regular basis. But the speeding tickets have been a large sense of contention for a long period of time. And there's really no way for the citizens within the community to vent their frustrations over the speeding tickets or, the excessive stops within the community to the police. And
the complaint about the speeding tickets, just to be clear, you feel like there's a disproportionate focus on African-American drivers in terms of pulling people over, or it's enforced more heavily in heavily African-American parts of town? Or is that just frustration that that's being, regardless of race, it's just being enforced too strictly in terms of the law in that community? What's the frustration?
It's a general frustration. It doesn't necessarily matter if you're African-American with regard to the speed cameras, because they get everyone. Right. Now, that's just one part of the, equation. The other part of the equation is that we do have aggressive policing within St. Louis County in certain municipalities, and that does tend to skew largely towards the African-American and brown, populations.
In terms of the way that the police have responded to the protests in the street, and we have seen these military-style vehicles, certainly military-style weaponry and SWAT-type gear on the police, heavy use of tear gas, smoke grenades, flashbang grenades, these pepper pellets, those type of techniques. Obviously, the police had their reasons for making those decisions. They've now been dialed back, whether it was their own decision or somebody above them that told them they could no longer do it that way. It seems like they have been forced into a different posture. But what do you think the effect of that is going to be going forward? You can't just unring that bell. That's now been done in your community by the Ferguson PD and by the county police in Ferguson. How do you think that's going to affect things going forward?
I think going forward, we're definitely going to have to sit down and see what the root cause of these problems with some of the police within the area, and figure out how do we bring the community back together. It's going to take some legislative changes both at the local and at the state level, but we'll have to come together as a community to make an effort to make sure that there is a true community approach to policing. We want more of the officers actually to live within our community. We need more diversity within the police force. And then we also need the mayors within the area to kind of ratchet down the speed ticket enforcement as well. That's a large source of contention that actually puts African Americans in a greater position not to be eligible for the job or qualified because they've had a previous legal history. A youth that gets a ticket that didn't have the money may get a warrant from that, and that's the beginning of a long, road of potential trouble, but it almost automatically prevents you from becoming an officer to change the situation.
That's really important context for understanding what's going on here. Thank you, sir. Missouri State Representative Courtney Allen Curtis, good luck, and thanks for being with us tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.